Stat by Amar'e Stoudemire. We're on chapter 13. Huddle up, guys, called Junior. The other team huddled up too, and I had a pretty good idea what they were talking about. You all know where the ball is going, said Junior. Straight to Carlos, I said. No doubt about it, agreed Deuce. Carlos had mostly been happy to spread the ball around so far, dumping it into the post to let Yeti do the dirty work, or dropping it back to Ledge for a jumper. But this was game point, and he was definitely the kind of guy who'd want to keep the glory to himself. Should we front him? Asked Mike. Keep him from getting the ball? Or maybe we should double team him as soon as he gets it, said Deuce. I've got a better idea, I said. They leaned in a little closer to hear it. Let him have it, I said. You sure? Said Junior. Yeah, I said, looking right at him. He nodded. Coach or not, he knew me well enough to know when I had something up my sleeve. Mike hadn't known me quite as long. He looked confused for a second. Wait, he said, you mean really let him have it? He punched his left palm with his fist to show what he meant. Nah, I said, letting out a little laugh. Man, you are one brave dude, though. I mean, let him have the ball. But he's their best player, said Deuce. And you know he'll take the shot, said Mike. Your D is tight, man, but he's got those crazy long arms, and if he makes it, it's over. Yeah, but he likes to go left, right? I said. I probably could have put that better, but they knew what I meant. 10 feet away, the other huddle had broken up. Talking time is over, losers, I heard Carlos call out. So I'm going to let him go left, I said, hurrying to finish. Unless y'all are making out in there, called Ledge. Some of the kids in the crowd laughed. That's how it was. Some of them would like whoever won. They were just warming up their butt-kissing muscles. He's gonna go left, I said in a fast whisper. Just be ready when he gets near the sideline. Junior shot a quick look over at the left sideline and smiled. All right, said Deuce, his last words before we broke out of the huddle. I hope you know what you're doing. Me too, I said. It didn't matter if the other team heard that part. Check the ball, suckers, said Ledge. He was doing that froggy lip-licking thing again. Deuce checked it back to him. 2 seconds later, it was on its way to Carlos. He reached up with his long, thin fingers and plucked it out of the air like it was a softball. Now it was just me and him, one-on-one. I swallowed hard. Come on, Amar'e, I heard Junior shout. Excuse me. That made me feel a little better. Even if we lost, even if Carlos blew right by me and jammed it home, I still had my family. I still had friends. It was a nice thought, but I didn't plan on losing. I got low in a good defensive stance, but I sort of came up on him a little sideways. My left side was a little closer to him, and my left arm was stretched out so that it was almost touching his right hand. That didn't matter because he was dribbling with his left as usual. I was giving him a little more space over there, and my arm was down on that side. He sort of cocked his head and looked at me like a pet dog does when it hears a funny noise. He knew something wasn't quite right about this, but he didn't spend too much time thinking about it. Fact, if you give a guy an open path on his strong side, he is going to take it, especially if it's game point. His first step was fast, almost faster than I can handle. I shuffled my feet and managed to stay between him and the basket. He was going full speed now. I was letting him go up the court, but forcing him further out to his left. At first, he was keeping an eye on the ground, like you have to on these cracked outdoor courts. But as he got closer to the sideline, he started shooting those quick looks up instead of down. He was looking at the hoop. We were getting closer to the corner now. You know the spot. NBA players take tons of threes from there because it's a shorter shot and a straight, squared-up look. And that means that we all practice from there all the time, too, heaving it up and trying to do what they do. Even his dribbling had changed a little. You know how it does when someone's about to take a shot? It was going to be one jump shot from the corner. I didn't think I could get up and contest it with his length, and there was a good chance it would go in. But that's right where the big crack in the court was. It was the one I stumbled over in our last game. That's the whole reason I remembered it. Maybe if Carlos had tripped over it then, he would have remembered it too. But he hadn't. He had to learn that lesson now. With his eyes already radar locked, sizing up the rim, he had no idea it was coming. "Look out, man!" I heard Yeti yell behind me, but it was too late. The edge of Carlos's sneaker clipped the raised edge of the cracked blacktop. "What the—" he blurted. I didn't answer, just reached in and grabbed the ball as he tumbled sideways toward the fence. I turned fast, and for this weird moment, there were 4 sets of eyes staring at me. Yeti and Ledge were facing forward, waiting to rebound in case Carlos missed. And Mike and Deuce were facing me, wanting to be ready for whatever it was I was planning. Now they knew what it was. They stepped in front of their guys, and I had clear sailing to the hoop. 1 dribble, 2 dribbles, pull up, pop! In the rim still had any net left on it. If the rim still had any net left on it, it would have swished. Now it was 6-5. We were still down by 1, but we got the ball back. "You got lucky with this broke-down court," said Carlos. "And you got played," I said. Oh, sorry. He gave me an ice-cold look. One of their empty bottles was wedged against the fence. He bit down and picked it up, then tossed it over the fence and out onto the grass. "Better call your dad," he said. We stared hard at each other. He wanted to get under my skin, and that line definitely got him there. I knew I could expect some tough D this time around. I also knew that same trick wouldn't work again. As it turned out, Deuce had one of his own. "We need to tie this," he said as Junior huddled us up for the next possession. "Let's fake 'em out." "How?" said Mike. I was happy to let those two talk it out with Junior while I leaned over with my hands on my knees and got some oxygen back in my lungs. "Pretend you're hurt," Deuce whispered to Mike. "I am hurt," said Mike, pointing toward his elbow bashed lower back. "Right," said Deuce. "Then this should be easy for you." "Oh, I get it," I said, raising my head. "Like playing possum." The light came on in Mike's eyes. He got it too. "I'm really hurting, guys," he said, and this time he said it loud enough for the other team to overhear it. The next play happened fast. Ledge checked the ball into Deuce. Deuce passed the ball to me, and Carlos was on top of me in a second. There was about an inch between us, and he was slapping away at the ball, shouting in my ear and generally being a pain in the neck. I moved the ball up the court slowly, shielding Carlos off with my body as best I could. I was getting closer to Mike and Yeti, but once Yeti saw how Mike was holding his back and almost doubled over, he started shading over to double team me. Now I had even less space. Of course, I didn't need much to loop a short pass over to Yeti. Mike dropped the act and burst into the open. It caught everyone by surprise, not just the other team, but the crowd too. No one had been surprised to see Mike hurting after absorbing all those elbows, but they were all surprised now. Surprised and, in Yeti's case, out of position. Mike laid it up to tie the score at 6-6. "Game point," called Tavares for our guys. There were some cheers up and down the sidelines. Deuce, Mike, and I high-fived on our way back up the court. But that was it. We were fresh out of trick plays, and was game point for the other team too. From the looks on their faces, I could tell this game was going to have a rough ending, one way or the other. Junior huddled us up one last time, and this time he kept it quick. "This is going to come down to one play," he said. "Let's make it your best." He looked right at me. "You know what I'm talking about." I did. "Pick and roll," I said. Carlos had scored the first point of the game with it, and I planned to score the last. It was my best play. I'd run it 1,000 times with these same guys on this same court. I'd even worked on it a few times in the driveway with Junior and my dad. Talk about two guys who could have set a screen. Now I just needed to run it once, but it had to be perfect. I looked around at my friends. We were somewhere between beat down and beat up. We were 1 point away from winning, and were 1 point away from losing, and being kicked off our own court for good. But none of us were backing down. We all clapped once, hard, as we broke the huddle. "Let's go," said Mike. "One more," said Deuce as he walked past me to take the ball out up top. We made eye contact and he gave me a little nod. I nodded back. We were both ready. Carlos stepped in front of me and got into position. He looked like a boxer before the bell. He was ready too.